Indeed, things appear to be a bit more daunting than expected. But we are working hard in order to prepare thoroughly a first meeting of the leaders. The matter of the fact remains that probably the difficulty arises, from our determination to get it right this time. And for this reason, we are placing the bar high. We don't want just a formal meeting. We want a meeting where we're going to have a landmark, meeting where we're going to have an outcome both on substance and on methodology. Therefore, all the lingering fundamental issues are in front of us, and we need to find a way to address them satisfactorily in order to have this meeting. Because, at this juncture, we do not, as President Anastasiadis has stated time and again, we don't want to have meetings for the sake of the meetings.
But we're at a point where there have been certain things agreed, I think, and so that means that presumably you're going into any talks, let's say, continuing on from where we left off. Is that right?
Not exactly, because, what happened in recent years, in particular during Mr. Christofias' tenure as president, was that we spent a couple of years where they worked more or less well along with Mr. Talat in order to move forward. And then since the election of Mr. Eroglu, we have witnessed a constant effort to erode what has been achieved. And anyway, the problem we were having until now was that even on issues where we managed to get closer, it was on technical or sectoral or secondary issues, and we never had real convergence on the fundamental issues. So this is why we want this time to start the other way around. We need a common understanding on the basis, on the core issues, and then we believe that things will fit in well, because, we need to address, as I was saying, all the core issues and all the fundamental questions of the problem. And we need to do it concurrently and simultaneously in their interconnections, because if you engage in a real give and take in a negotiation, you might be able to give more, on one issue on governance if you get more on territory. So you need to talk about all those issues together, which was not the case until now.
It's never been done that way before?
No, unfortunately, we had a sequential approach which has not yielded the expected results. And we believe that we are running out of time. It's high time we get it right. Therefore, we want this process to succeed. This is why maybe we are facing tension and, difficulties in the beginning. But I believe it's better to face those issues and clarify the situation and get it clear from the beginning in order to pave the way for a final settlement. Otherwise, we are going to continue turning around without a result. And so far, let me finish this statement with a small, a reference to something I'm often using as a reference. So far what we were doing were to prepare here and there very nice decorations, but we were lacking the Christmas tree where we're going to hang them. So we need to know the tree in order to know if the decorations are good for the tree.
Okay, well, that's a nice analogy at this time of year. You've got a lot of experience from your years in Brussels and everywhere else as to the negotiating procedure. Yes. Do you feel that the people you're dealing with also know, if you like, the rules of engagement?
I would say so, yes. They are also experienced people. And, in spite of our divergences and differences, we have utmost respect for each other with our counterparts. And I think that in the Turkish Cypriot community, there are people that are dealing with politics who have, they are good politicians, good negotiators, and overall, I wouldn't complain about the civilized manner of our exchanges and the fact that we are negotiating more or less in good faith, but positions are far apart.
Which brings us to how you bridge those gaps. Turkey itself, rather than the Turkish Cypriots, is the one that really holds the key, is it not? And we've had very mixed messages coming out of Turkey in the last 4 or 5 weeks. First saying that there would be a meeting on the 4th of November, and then the UN here denying that any date had been set. Why do you think that? What were they playing at? Have you any ideas?
Indeed, first I would agree with you that we earnestly believe that the key is in Ankara. This is why we have tried, and it has worked out to have indirect contact with Ankara, and it has been agreed that the negotiators will be able to visit Ankara and Athens respectively. We don't put Greece in the same basket as Turkey, because Turkey is the occupying power, Turkey is holding the key, but Turkish Cypriots wanted to have the possibility to go in Athens, and since the negotiators have no status, so there are no problems of recognition or whatever, we said why not? Bearing in mind, of course, that it's not, as I was saying, the same relationship, because Ankara is the real key holder.
And have you met people you've been and started this process of meeting the Turks?
Not yet. We are ready to go. We need to decide the dates. But yes, you have those statements coming out from time to time, both by the Turkish Cypriot leadership and by Ankara, which are a bit confusing. But overall, I think that there is a difference in their approach. For them, it's better to go business as usual. For us, it is important to have a shift of paradigm and at last have a more effective approach. Therefore, if you like, for them, there is no need to have this preparation and this initial understanding. We can go on. This is why, as soon as Alexander Downer mentioned that his next visit will be on the 4th of November, they said that there would be a meeting of the leaders. But the understanding was that there will be a meeting of the leaders if and when we get the necessary preparation and an agreement on a joint statement. And we're not there yet, unfortunately, so it will not happen.
Are we close to being there? Because the other thing that we always talk about time frames in Cyprus, but it does seem that whenever we even start to look like we're going somewhere on any negotiations to solve the Cyprus problem, there's an election, either in Turkey, in the north, it always seems to mess everything up.
You are absolutely right on this, but the late Rauf Denktaş was saying when we were having negotiations with him that the Cyprus problem is 95% solved. The problem is 5% remaining. So I cannot tell you that we are close or we are not close. In order to solve the problem, you need an agreement on fundamental issues. And the only and the best way to get out of this conundrum, where you have always deadlines and elections coming up and these kind of things, is to insulate the process from what is happening around. And the only way you can do this is to start by having what I was saying before, having an agreement on fundamental issues, the basis of the settlement, the core issues of the problem, and then technical work can operate independently of developments around. But you need to get the fundamentals right. So
But,
this is why.
And it also, the other thing that always seems to put a spanner in the works or become a fly in the ointment is leaks. And
Yes.
comments to the press which perhaps are not thought through, or the press literally making things up, as we both know they've done many times in the past. So there are a lot of other agendas sort
Yes.
of buzzing around the periphery. How are you going to deal with those?
You know, it's most unfortunate. Negotiations have to take place with transparency, with respect of the other, with respect to your constituency, the people that eventually will have to approve a settlement, and it's about their lives. So you cannot just negotiate in the air. But at the same time, negotiations cannot take place in the public domain. So we need to find the right mixture between, how to reconcile those two things. And unfortunately here in Cyprus, so far, yes, there is a problem of respect of confidentiality, and the public debate very often is not about the essence and the substance, but about, little procedural things, statements here and there. But at the same time, we live in a real world. I do my best, and I believe the government and certainly President Anastasiadis, on behalf of whom I'm acting, he does his best in order to keep the level of the debate at the appropriate, if you like, dimensions. But it's sometimes, it's very difficult to combine this need to keep people informed and respect the confidentiality of what is going on.
And then we come to the fact that when you negotiate, you mentioned give and take.
Yes.
There are a lot of people, certainly this side of the Green Line, who think there should be no giving on our side because we've been wronged. That's a very difficult idea to turn around, isn't it? Do you think that the will is there among the general population? I'm assuming you said the people, it's going to affect people's lives, that as and when there is a solution, presumably, again, there may be a referendum.
Yes, certainly.
And one might assume that unless what I've just spoken about has somehow been addressed, the referendum might say no, and then that's partition, isn't it?
I hope that there will be no partition. We will never compromise with the idea of a partition of our country. We want the reunification of our country. And I might sound a bit romantic, but the more I'm involved in the Cyprus problem, the more I believe that it is possible to find a settlement that will address the fundamental concerns of all Cypriots and offer real prospects for a reunified country to prosper and to build a common future. And I believe that today, if you like, Cyprus is not as it was some years ago. Cyprus is a member of the European Union. The implementation of the acquis communautaire, of the fundamental freedoms of the European Union, the restoration of the human rights and fundamental freedoms of all Cypriots, it is possible. Therefore, I don't believe that the sacrifices people are going to be asked to do are such that will not make a settlement worth it. To the contrary, I believe that we are going to see the difference. But provided and it is our responsibility to get it right, above all other reasons, because if we propose something which is bad, people will not vote for it. And anyway, it's our responsibility to tell people what we are going to do. And therefore, I'm not pessimistic, provided that we reach a common understanding. And there are ways to accommodate the concerns of both communities, but in a way that will not violate the fundamental rights and freedoms of any Cypriot. It sounds, I tell you, a bit naive, but it is possible.
Well, it's nice that you're saying that with such determination and firmness. Now, I imagine that as a negotiator, it's quite important for you to establish some sort of rapport with Osman Ertug, who is the Turkish Cypriot negotiator. Do you feel that you've managed to do that? Because if you two don't get on, it's very difficult to do what you need to do, isn't it?
I think we manage very well. First, I have to tell you that we know each other for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And therefore, this is important and as a starting point. I think Osman Ertug is a very civilized person and highly educated. He knows the issues well. Of course, I am not expecting him to agree with me in his positions. Certainly, he's defending, the positions of the Turkish Cypriot leadership, which are completely different from the positions I'm defending. But overall, I think we have mutual respect, and I try, as far as I am concerned, to put myself in the shoes of the other and get a better understanding of where do they come from, what they are after, and eventually I hope that there are ways we can manage to address at least some of the concerns, and already I believe we are managing to avoid a lot of misunderstandings. I'm often telling him, we have enough differences and divergences. We don't need to add on the misunderstandings.
All right, and so it's a good-natured form of negotiation, but we can't seem to get to this joint statement. Do you feel in your heart that they will go along with this? Has the time come? Andreas, it's been, a generation and more. It seems that we've never really got to the bottom of the problem in terms of not only solving it but selling the solution to the people of Cyprus, both sides of the divide.
You are absolutely right. Solution is long overdue, and as I was telling you, for me it's an ethical and moral obligation to do my utmost in order to solve the problem. I cannot accept that today the Greek Cypriots can be together with 500 million Europeans and be, as a matter of fact, part of more or less the same society and not be with their Turkish Cypriot compatriots. Therefore, I believe that it is necessary, it is possible, and I believe that if we get it right, it will go without any particular effort in trying to sell the settlement, because as I'm telling you, I am one of those that do not believe that the settlement has to necessarily be painful. Certainly it is a compromise. You don't get 100% of what you are asking of or of what you are dreaming, and life goes on. And even if we were, to get all we wanted, we are going to discover that things have changed on the ground. But you can get from a settlement a prospect. You are going to get a better life for all, and you are going to get the country fully taking its stride and exploring all its potential and possibilities as a member of the European Union.
Well, there are two things that have just sprung to mind now while you were saying that, and that we talked about the time frame. Of course, the longer this goes on, the older people who do remember growing up with Turkish or Greek Cypriot friends, depending on which side they're on, they're dying. Yes. And apart from a few very innovative groups trying to bring the young people together, there isn't that person-to-person connection that is vital for the solution to be one that lasts. And then you mentioned the opportunities. Well, with the current economic situation, I would suggest that a solution could actually help us, both sides, to really move forward fast on the economic front, because it would open up so many investment possibilities.
You are right, but if people fear a bit the economic situation, it's not that because they don't understand that this will unlock more potential for the country. But they fear that because of the dire economic circumstances, we are going to make a discount. And this is not true, because what happens is that the economic crisis, it has an impact, but it's the contrary. It limits our room of maneuver. And at the end of the day, it makes us being more, placing the bar higher, if you like. Therefore, the important thing is to get to a settlement. And it is not about, compromising for less. But I need to say something on your other reference to, the time going by and changement of generations, new people. Most of the people in Cyprus were born after 1974, and so very easily and very quickly we dismiss what they are saying by saying, they are not interested in a solution, they don't know each other, etc. Personally, I don't believe this. I believe that we need to have them on board, and in order to have them on board, we need to understand what they need. And my assessment is that what they need is to live in a normal society. So if we manage to create at the end of the process a normal society, they will go along the same way they go perfectly along with all other European partners. So I'm not pessimistic there either, and I believe that the young generation is ready for this. And what they don't want is, having fences everywhere, literally or in their imagination, in their minds, in their way of being, in their prospecting life. They want just to open up and to flourish. And I believe that this is possible.
I just have to say, most of the kids that you're talking about have been through a school system that has actively encouraged, if not hatred, certainly mistrust of the other side. And it's not just this side. I think it's happened both sides of the Green Line. That's a very difficult thing to overcome.
Let me tell you that having spent time as ambassador of Cyprus in Ireland and having seen developments in Northern Ireland, I believe that overall where we're coming from is not that difficult as it was the situation in Northern Ireland, and they are more or less successful. So I believe that overall people today, what they want, as I was saying, is this normalcy, and they are longing to have the possibility to have people-to-people contacts and mingling with people. Therefore, whatever flaws our educational system has, and all educational systems have flaws, there is no question about that. I believe that what remains with the younger generations is this longing for a better future and a future of possibilities and freedom. So I'm not pessimistic about that, and I mean, if you see, our generation or a generation younger than us, there is no real hatred between Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots. It's it's of course there is always a bit of a fear of the unknown, but I think people will seize the opportunity when they see that this is opening up possibilities.
It's a very big weight on your shoulders. When you finished with the EU presidency, you looked exhausted. You said, "I'm going to take a bit of time off." And a few months later, here you are in what many people would say was probably the most important job in the Republic of Cyprus at the moment, because it could hold the key to the future.
Again, this is for me another mission. And since I was entrusted with this mission by the President of the Republic in his capacity as leader of the Greek Cypriot community, I couldn't say no. I don't know what is the domain of the feasible and the possible, but that I'm always determined, and I will try to do whatever I can, and even a bit more than that.